just mute here a couple of noises. All right, there we go. We're studying the book of Shmuel Bet, chapter 3, verse 30. We're in a very difficult status right now, situation where David was attempting to consolidate the kingdom under him, using his chief rival Avner. Avner was the general of Shaul, and he was trying to. Avner finally realized, after having a fight, basically a disagreement with his boss Ishbosheth, the son of Shaul, Avner decided to switch sides, and he knew that David is destined to rule the entire nation. And he decided that it's time. It seems that Ishbosheth, the son of Shaul, is not capable of doing that. He was a very weak person. He was a very pious man, but weak physically, sick. He was a sick person physically, and did not have a lot of clout, and did not have a lot of. Was an astute politician, and so he ended up alienating his right-hand man, and Avner, and the right-hand man Avner went to David, and David, surprisingly so, seemingly surprisingly so, because he was his chief rival, so you would expect, that for him to fight back, but David knew exactly what's at stake here, and what's at stake was the good of the nation. And for the good of the nation, he was okay to hold his own pride, and wanted to use Avner to consolidate power and to bring to a peaceful transition, and starting with a peace treaty between Ishbosheth and David. And later on, Avner promised David that he is going to rally the troops, rally the nation behind him. So David wanted to create this treaty, to sign this treaty, so to speak, and David accepted Avner with open arms, except that Avner had another enemy, and that enemy was the general of David. David's main general, his name was Yoav, and Yoav had a long accounting, a long cheshbon, how they say it, a long rap sheet for Avner. He wanted Avner dead, because Avner killed Yoav's brother, and Yoav was the one that was running around with David when David was running away from Shaul, and everybody knew that Avner was the person that caused Shaul to hate David so much. When he had the ability and the opportunity to say something nice, he said something not nice, and that Yoav did not take easily to it, and he had a lot of animosity towards Avner, and he ended up killing him in a very, we discussed it at length last time, in a very underhanded, how can you say underhanded for killing, but whatever, in a disgusting way. He maneuvered him to come back and to talk to him as if he's his friend, and wanted to bring him to a din Torah, to a court case, to adjudicate exactly who's right and who was wrong. And before they appeared in front of the judges, he just got to stick a sword in his stomach, close to his heart, and killed him. So that's where we ended up last time. So actually, one more piece. David heard about that and was furious. Was very, very upset. How come Yoav is who is an official persona, is the head of the Joint Chiefs, so to speak, going to go around killing people, even if he's not on the job. This is not right. It's not right for the people. It's not right for the nation. It's not right for himself. It's not right for David, for the boss. It's not right for anyone. So he ended up, but David knew that he cannot alienate Yoav like Ishbosheth alienated Avner. So he basically was very easy, was very forgiving to Yoav. Physically, meaning he didn't kill Yoav, or he didn't punish Yoav on the spot. He cursed him. That's the punishment. It says God is going to pay you, and we talked at length last time what it meant and how it worked out not so favorable to David. But the bottom line, Yoav was he spoke to Yoav, who was David's nephew. He spoke to him very strongly and got him to understand that it's not simple what he did. And now in verse 30, in order to counter that, the prophet is telling us how Yoav had the leg to stand on. Ve'Yoav ve'Avishai achiv hargu le'Avner. And he's the prophet again. This is a repeat of what he said a couple of verses before. But because there was such a strong curse and such a strong reaction from David against Yoav, the prophet is countering it and balancing it with, listen, Yoav had a leg to stand on. And he and his brother, they were both called Goel Adam, the relative who can seek revenge. And they killed Avner. They killed Avner. Al asher himit et Asael achiem begivon b'milchama. That he killed their brother Asael, wearing Givon, and then to balance it back, he says it was in a war, because in a war, if someone starts a war, so it's there is no geulat dam, there is no revenge. When two people are fighting and they both want to fight, and one wins and kills the other, there is no. It's not like a murder, premeditated murder. In which case the relatives can take revenge. This is a war, that's the nature of war. If you don't want to be killed, they don't go to war. So again, it's balancing and balancing back and balancing back in order to tell us that it wasn't simple, and it was a shock to the nation that such a big important person was killed by another big important person. Vayomer David el Yoav. But David is afraid that he's going to lose the whole the nation here. He's going to lose the public. And we will see soon why. He was afraid he's going to lose public opinion, and the people are not going to be united. And that's the main fear of David, to keep the Jewish people united under under one roof, under one cause. So when brothers starts killing brothers, it's very, very easily can deteriorate to a all-out civil war, and as they like to say, secular violence. That's what David was fearing and didn't want. So David is, despite he couldn't politically and wasn't able to get rid of Yoav at that point. Yoav, in fact, continues to serve David for the next 40 years. But he wanted Yoav to demonstrate that repentance, that he really agreed that he wasn't right. So, Vayomer David al Yoav ve'el kol ha'am. So David is speaking to Yoav and to the entire nation, meaning he is admonishing him or put him on his spot in front of everyone. Kol ha'am asher ito, and everyone that's around Yoav. He didn't take him to a room privately and say no. He was a public discussion, and he says, because such a big person died, we all need to mourn, and therefore he says, Kir'u bigdechem, you should practice kriya. Kriya is like to tear the clothes. From here, by the way, there is a whole discussion and a whole proof of some of the halachot of mourning. When someone hears of a relative, obviously they need to tear their clothes. But what if someone hears of someone big, important person that died? Say a big leader, a rabbinic leader. So the followers have to do the same as if they do for their parents. I remember when the Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away, we all did that. We all tore our clothes because it felt from here, because of this is what you do when the leader of the Jews is being killed. So David is ordering Yoav and all of the people around to tear their clothing, their suit, v'chigru sakim, and not only tearing for mourning, but taking the additional mourning practice of wearing sack. If you recall in the Megillah, when the news of the decree of Haman was disseminated, the people of Shushan were wearing sack and putting dirt on their head. So wearing sack is a sign of mourning. So he's asking everybody to do that. V'sifdu lifnei Avner, and you should eulogize in front of Avner. What kind of eulogy? So in those days, they used to have a group of professional eulogizers who would cry, who would scream out, cry out in front of the cask, the body, when during the funeral. Now there is also in the halacha a whole discussion as to the mourners and the eulogizers. Where should they go in relationship to the deceased? Should they walk in front of the body or behind the body? And what the Gemara is ascertaining is that there were two opinions. There were two customs. The custom in Galil, the custom in the Galilee, in the north of Israel, was to walk in front of the deceased. When the funeral procession goes, there is a whole section of people, a whole bunch of people, a bunch of mourners who walk in front. And in Judah, in Yehuda, where David was the king, they walked behind. That was the two opinions, the two customs. So what he's doing here is he wants to unite all of the people. And in order to unite all of the people, he wants to provide both opinions, both customs. So he's ordering some people to walk in front of the deceased and eulogize in front. And he himself, because he is from the tribe of Judah, V'amelech David olech achrei mita, the King David, he's walking behind the deceased and mourning that way. So the deceased is basically surrounds in front and in the back. The whole procession is people who eulogizing it. By the way, from this point on to the end of the chapter, David is being called HaMelech David, the King David. He is now officially really, even though the actual inauguration is going to happen in the next chapter, but it's already, as he's taking steps to deal with the reaction of the nation, to deal with the people. So this is, he's officially assuming the role of the king. Now, there is one more point here. There are some, because of the respect and the dignity of a king, there are certain things that the king is not allowed to do, and the people are not allowed to see the king, for example. They're not allowed, the king is not allowed to go to a public spa where everybody can see him naked. You know, it's no respect. It's ain't fitting, as they say. The same thing is there is a strong opinion in the Gemara that a king is not allowed to walk in a funeral, and because when they walk in a funeral, they eulogize, they consider mourners, and they obviously there are rules. You have to put the tzitzis in. You can't walk with the tzitzis outside, and it's not dignified for a king to participate in a funeral. So the halacha is that the king really should not be doing that. However, there is an opposing opinion that says here, David here went to a funeral. Voila, you know, so what's the problem? So from here, they ascertain that it's allowed. So the Gemara over there is answering, listen, here there was a very, it was hora'at shah, it was like a one-time exception because of the situation. David wanted to unify the people and make sure that they all know that he did not order the killing. So if someone important is killed and the king is, not showing up to the funeral, people start thinking, maybe it was ordered by him. Maybe he's okay with that action. But when so he made an exception, even though a king should not be walking in a regular funeral. Here he made an exception and did it. Now, however, despite of the fact that David is showing everyone that he didn't do it, and it wasn't. It was a private a private event that Yoav decided to do on his own, and what? So despite that, David is not feeling comfortable carrying the body of Avner and burying him in his parents' grave, in his parents' cemetery. So vayikveru et Avner bechevron, even though Avner is from the tribe of Benjamin, and they had a family plot in the area of Benjamin, and by a person like that should be really buried in his in the plot that was meant for him, a dignified plot that his family section. They were afraid to go to the section of Benjamin with all this procession and cause balagan and a riot, and maybe create stick it to them and annoy a whole bunch of people. So they ended up burying Avner in the section of Judah, in Hebron, in the city of Hebron, where in the local city, to make a nice procession, to make a nice funeral, but quick and local. So this is Hebron, is the city, is the capital city where David is, and that's where he's burying Avner. Until this very day, right near Me'arat HaMachpelah, there is a small structure that people say this is where Avner ben Ner is buried, near David, near Ishai, the father of David, is also buried there, and Avner is also buried over there. So that area, that grave is known nowadays, and if you visit Hebron, you can see it. So ויקברו את אבנר בחברון, they buried Avner in Hebron, וישא המלך את קולו ויבק אל קבר אבנר, and then the king David is weeping loudly, publicly, ויבכו כל העם, and everybody followed suit, and then David is taking an additional measure. David is making a public eulogy. ויקונן המלך על אבנר ויאמר. So this is not common, although we saw David eulogizing chapter ago or so, chapter and a half ago, eulogizing Shaul. After Shaul died, Shaul and his son. So that was a eulogy here. Soon thereafter, he's eulogizing Avner. But this is not common. It's so not common that this eulogy is known to be a eulogy that happens once every few hundred years. It's very, very strong. It's written in the in our books of prophets, right? That in Sefer Shmuel for generations to come, because it's very, very serious and severe. And this eulogy comes to do two things. It comes to eulogize and show how important the person was. It comes to raise questions. How come this happened? You know, we never know when a terrible event happened to, God forbid, to the Jewish people. We don't know what to think. Why did it happen? Okay. So to pose those questions, you know, which we all, our mind all go there when something terrible happened, but at the same time provide an answer. For those who are smart, for those who are thinking, the question itself provides an answer. And so this is what he starts in saying. Hakemot naval yamut Avner. Was Avner, did he deserve to die like the death of a crew of a what? Of a cruel death of a jerk, of a piece of garbage, of a monster. You know, why did he? Why should he have deserved this? It seems like he didn't, but it did happen to him, and we know that the what God is arranging for everyone is just. So, you know, it's hard for us to take, but what is his justification for it? So he says, Yadecha lo asurot veraglecha lo lenechoshtayim hukshu kinfol lifnei bnei avla nafalta vayosifu kol ha'am lifkot alav. So what he's saying is this question and answer. He says that how did Avner die? Avner died while he was talking to Yoav. They were discussing a question, a logic question, and Avner was bending down to show him something with the shoe, and then Yoav hit him and killed him. The hands of Avner were not in shackles, were not in handcuffs at the time, and his legs were not in shackles. So, and you're a very strong man, and you were able to resist, you were able to fight back, but you didn't, because what happened here is God arranged such a situation that Avner's mind was sort of discombobulated. He wasn't focusing on the fact that he's in danger. So even though he wasn't drunk or anything, he wasn't asleep, his all faculties were on, and he was able to resist, but he didn't. And they were served in front of Bnei Avla, in front of the fell before unscrupulous individuals. What he's saying here is that he's asking question, how come it happens to you in such a way? But he's also answering, listen, your hands were not tied when you committed the crime that earned you this way of dying. What was the original original sin of Avner? The original sin of Avner, a series of sins, is that he was working for Shaul, and not as an advisor, and giving him bad advice. When Shaul wanted to kill when Shaul was upset at David, and the people of Nov were blamed for helping David, Avner could have easily suggested to Shaul, listen, it's not really their fault. They didn't know that you're upset at David. David is your son-in-law, at the time it was, and they didn't know. And with that, he would have saved 83, 85 lives of the Kohanim of Nov. And he didn't do it. His hands were not tied at the time. He did it knowingly, premeditated. Not premeditated, but he knew exactly what he is doing, and what he was doing. And the same thing, the second and the third sin, when David came close, arm length from Shaul, and was able to kill him, and he didn't. Avner told him, no, he wasn't here. He's just telling you stories. He didn't really get close to you, and he's just he continued to chase him. So again, nobody forced him to say that, and he said it with full knowledge that what will happen is that Shaul will continue to pursue David and try to catch him or hurt him. So he wasn't an angel, and therefore he didn't die like an angel. However, again, vayasifu kol ha'am livkot alav, the efforts of David to explain how great this man was and how it wasn't his fault worked. And then at a certain point, the people felt that's enough, ויבוא כל העם להברot את דוד לחם בעוד יום. So the funeral happened during the day, in the morning, early in the day, and David was eulogizing in the funeral and crying and all of that. And then, and he wasn't eating; he was fasting the whole day as a result of this whole commotion. And the people came to, just like they coming to mourners. There is the non halacha that mourners, when they come back from the funeral, the community is providing a meal to them. It's called Sudat Avrah, a meal of healing, to get their mind back, try to get them back to start the healing process. So it's called Sudat Avrah, and this is what they were trying to have David eat something, eat bread, and they served him that, and they wanted him to start the healing process. And they kept bothering him and offering him again and again and again. And David says, enough, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to continue a day of fasting, a day of mourning until sunset, because it's too big. It's beyond a regular funeral. So he wanted people to leave him alone. So he said, Vayishava David lemor, ko yaseh li Hashem Elokim v'cho yosif, ki im lifnei bo hashemesh etam lechem o kol meuma. He basically is swearing, I'm not going to eat before sunset, and I'm not going to taste anything. Just go find go away, and that's what happened. V'chol ha'am ikiru, and the people, as a result of all of David's actions, they recognized what happened here and what didn't happen here. That David did not approve this action. Vayitav b'neihem, and they liked it, and they agreed that it's David was doing the right thing. Kechol asher asa hamelech b'nei kol ha'am tov, and everything that the king did on that day was approved by the people. וידעו כל העם וכל ישראל ביום ההוא כי לא הייתה מהמלך להמית את אבנר בן נר, and everybody knew at that moment that the order did not come from Avner, from David. And again, David is continuing again, and now he's answering a very important question. Okay, if you making such a big fuss about this man, and you don't eat, and you don't drink, and you making a big funeral, and so why don't you punish the dude that killed him? It's the natural question. So he says as follows: Vayomer HaMelech el avadav, you should know, first of all, the reason that I really should have done that. I should have punished the person who did that. Kisar v'gadol nafal hayom hazeh b'Yisrael, because a big prince, a big minister, a great man in Israel had fallen. and I should have really taken steps to punish the perpetrator. However, va'anuchi hayom rach, but I am kind, and I'm ruling in a kind way. This is different than all of the surrounding kings of the day, and it's different even than the Shaul, the preceding king. A king typically, in order to create law and order, they have to make examples of people. If you do something wrong, it's short by a head, and that was not the way David was ruling. He was very, very strong and very, very fierce towards the enemies of the nation. However, internally, he was very, very kind and very, very loving. And that's why we all saying David Melech Yisrael, we still call David our king now. Because he's really the epitome of, he is the real king. He's a king like God is our king. God is our king, is not, is looking very, very favorably at every single Jew. And the same thing happened with David. He was very, very kind. And Umeshuach Melech. What is Meshuach Melech? Meshuach Melech is, there are two types of kings. There are kings who were born into it. His father was a king, his grandfather was a king, his great-grandfather was a king, so he's a king, he didn't do anything. And the people really didn't choose him. It's 4 generations ago, people choose the king, and now they ended up with this guy. That's not what happened with David. David was no one, in his eyes at least, he was a nobody, and the people made him a king, because everything that happened to him in the name of God, that Shmuel made him a king and anointed him and crowned him, that happened in secrecy. If you recall, when Shmuel came to crown David, that was a secret thing, and he had to really hide from Shaul, so Shaul doesn't see that it happens. So nobody really knew it at the time. And now the people are making David the king, and therefore, if the people are making him a king, he needs to manage the people. And in order to manage the people, he needs to rule in a certain way, and therefore he was prevented from taking revenge from over the killing of Avner, and he couldn't punish Yoav at the time. And he says those people, and he's talking about the two remaining brothers of his sister, the sister of David, Tzruya, Yoav and Avishai. Those are her sons. Those people I'm a softy, and they are hard. They are hard and harsh people, and they're harder than me, and I just can't do it. You got to understand that the circumstance does not allow me to do it. However, I know that their punishment is coming to them. Yeshalem Hashem lo oseh hara kirato, and God is going to pay back to those to the evil person who did the evil act, the wicked act. He's going to get what he's going to get, but I can't do it right now. Please understand. And it appears that people did understand. Okay, chapter 4. Chapter 4 is sad. So what happened after Avner died? Ishboshet, the son of Shaul, who was the de facto king on 11 tribes, right? He heard that that's what happened. Vayishma ben Shaul, he's not calling him Ishboshet, he's calling him Ben Shaul to attribute him to the greatness of the first king, meaning he was not a mistake of a king. He was supposed to be a king. He was just not a good king and not everlasting king, but he was an important person. So that important person, that Ishboshet, the son of Shaul, heard Ki met Avner b'Chevron, that Avner died in Chevron. Vayirpu yadav, and he just became very, very weak. He was trembling. He lost heart. Let's say there's no heart mentioned here, but his hand became. When someone hears a terrible event that happened and they get scared, they feel that all of the strength is leaving their hands and their body, and they can't function. And v'chol Israel nivalu, and all of the Jewish people outside of Hebron got scared and alarmed, and were behalais. It's more of a terror. Terror penetrated their heart. What's the point here? What's the terror? The terror is as follows. They were seeing that, they were thinking that perhaps now we're going to go into a civil war. Because it's Ishbosheth on the one hand, David on the other hand, and one general killed another general. That's a good reason to start a war. And that is something that never happened internally in such a way, and they were very, very scared. Now, there is a section in Torah, in Parashat Bechukotai, in Vayikra, that is listing a whole set of admonitions, of curses, of things, bad things that will happen to the Jewish people if we're not going to listen to Hashem. And the very first thing that's listed over there is that they will be v'ifkati alechem be'ala, that I'm going to, that God says that He is going to apply terror and alarm and fear in the heart of the people. That's the first thing. When someone is living under terror, right away, even if nothing is happening to them personally, immediately, the terror in their heart is ruining their day. And they felt that if this is the first thing that goes into their heart, if they feel terror, they feel alarm, they feel very fear, that is the first step, and all the other curses that listed in the Torah are coming. And oh my gosh, this is the first in many. What should we do? And they really couldn't find themselves. That translated later into them saying, you know what? It's time to join David and be his subjects. But this is just an intro to a terrible event. Just in short, just so you don't stay, I don't think we'll finish it. So the bottom line is the two people went and killed Ishbosheth and beheaded him and delivered his head to David, thinking that this is the obvious way. And David's people killed Avner's general, so now the next one in line, the one above him, is Ishbosheth. Let's just kill him and finish this whole, and declare David the victor. And therefore, the whole conflict will disappear, because the conflict is between those two people. And now when one of them is dead, there is no conflict. So that's the basic thing, but there is more to it. So this first verse is going to describe who were those two people who perpetrated this terrible act of revenge, of killing Ishbosheth. And it wasn't revenge. It's just Veshnei anashim sarei gdudim. So those are two people who were commanders, company commanders, platoon commanders. Hayu ben Shaul. They were, and it doesn't say there were two, meaning they were not commanders two that served in the army of Shaul, in the army of Ishbosheth, in the army of the son of Shaul. It's missing a letter here. They should have said two commanders, Hayu Lev and Shaul, two, right, the Ishbosheth. And then it's not saying it here, because what happened is that even though Ishbosheth was the ruler de facto of most of the Jewish people, some people from his own tribe who lived around that area, who lived around the area of the tribe of Benjamin and the tribe of Judah, their parcel of land, their sections are adjacent to each other. So it's easier sometimes for someone from the north, 2 hours drive or 2 days walk, to not know exactly what's going on and say, okay, the king is Ishbosheth, I'll go after him. But they were from the tribe of Ishbosheth, and they were not happy with him. For whatever reason, it doesn't say why, but they were just sort of on the fence. Also to stress that this terrible act of killing Ishbosheth did not come from the other side, did not come from the side of David, it came from his own family. So those two commanders were around. They had a militia, and they were around the son of Shaul. And one was named Shema Echad Ba'ana. One of them, his name was Ba'ana, and Shema Shani Rechev, and the other one was Rechev. And they were the sons of Rimona Be'eruti. They were the sons of this gentleman, Rimona Be'eruti. We'll see in a second. The name of the person is Rimon. Be'eruti is from the city of Be'erot. And first of all, he's saying Bibnei Binyamin. These two people who are going to kill the king, who is from the tribe of Binyamin, they are themselves from Bnei Binyamin. So right away, it's a inside job. And they say Ki gam Be'erot techashev al Binyamin. And they mention the city of Be'erot, even though it was officially in the plot of Binyamin, it was a border town, and it has a lot of other people there. A lot of people from the tribe of Yehudah were living there as well. And they had an influence on their neighbors. So they said, what are you going with this, with the Ishboshet? We have your David, he is our king. So Be'erot was a city that belongs to Binyamin, and some Binyaminites, whatever, the tribe of Binyamin lived there, but other people lived there as well. And therefore, they were not so dedicated to the king of Binyamin. ויברחו הבארותים גיתיימה ויהיו שם גרים עד היום הזה. Now what happened? When 2 years before that, there was the war that Shaul lost in the north, if you recall, right? Shaul had a war in the north against the Philistines, and he lost it. He was killed, and those two guys, Ba'ana and Rechev, those two commanders, were fighting in that war with Shaul, and they witnessed the loss, and they ran away. They ran away from the city because they were afraid that now that Shaul lost, they're going to be killed, because they were commanders in his army. They're not commanders in the army of the son of Shaul. They were commanders in the army of the father Shaul, right? And they were afraid that there will be retaliation against them, and they're going to be killed. So they ran away to Gitaima, a town with there's different opinion where it is, but they lived there away in exile. Wasn't an exile outside of the land of Israel, but it was an exile outside of their own home. So they were afraid to stay within the section of the tribe of Binyamin, and they went home. And what were they hoping to accomplish? They were hoping that maybe the son of Shaul is going to take control, consolidate power, and therefore they will be able to go back to their home. And that didn't happen. So they were upset with him, that, what kind of a king are you, that we end up still living in fear and living away from our home. So that's one thing that caused them to do this terrible act. A second thing that caused them to do this terrible act is the fact that they saw that there is no future for the dynasty of Shaul. Ishboshet, the king, did not have children. The only other children that existed in the family was the son of Yehonatan. Shaul had 4 children. 3 of them died with him in a war, and one was the king. The king did not have children, but one of the oldest son, Yonatan, who died with Shaul in the war, had a son. Yonatan ben Shaul ben Necher Raglaim. He had a son, but that son was limping. He had broken, both of his legs were broken. What happened? בן 5 שנים היה בבוא שמועת שאול ויונתן מישראל, ותישאר אומנתו ותנוס ויהי וחופזה לנוס ויפול ויפסח ושמו מפיבושת. We'll talk about it a little later. I see the rabbi is here. I'll just say briefly what happened was he was 5 years old during the war, and his mother heard that her husband and his father-in-law, her father-in-law Shaul, died, and she got scared and she ran away. And when she ran away, she took her son and she fell down, and the son broke both of his legs and he became limping for the rest of his life. He didn't have a good St. Barnabas, and he was limping for the rest of his life. Wasn't fitting to be a king. So they didn't see future in the dynasty of Shaul, and therefore they decided, you know what, let's just finish it and get rid of Ishbosheth and hand his head to David. We'll talk about it next time at length. I apologize for the extra minute, Rabbi. It's all yours.
No worries.